Hi everyone, I'm Dr Nadine Hamilton from Love Your Pet, Love Your Vet, and welcome to another fabulous episode of our Thriving and Surviving in the Veterinary Profession webinar mini-series. Today I'm absolutely thrilled to have my special guest, Mikaela Dahlstrom, who is an exercise physiologist and has degrees in exercise science and exercise physiology. She's based here at LYPLYV Physio at Miami on the gorgeous Gold Coast. And many of you may have recognised her or remember her who came to the Gold Coast Love Yourself Masterclass that we did last year, sponsored by Love Your Pet, Love Your Vet and AEC. So Mikaela was our one of our extra special guest speakers there. And for those of you coming to my conference later on in the year, you'll also get to meet Mikaela as well and hear all of her wonderful words of wisdom. So today, Mikaela and I are going to have a really good cuppa and a chat. So I've got my cuppa ready here. Cuppa and a chat. We're going to just do this a little bit more informally. But Mikaela will share with us, I guess, some of the importance around exercise, which is something that can be very lacking for many of us, as well as having the time to actually do that within, a busy veterinary clinic and trying to find time in your day to do that, but also ways of managing, even if you are in social isolation or if you are in quarantine, some really practical ways of being able to do that. So welcome, Mikaela, and thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, it's great to have you joining me. I know we obviously, for those of you who don't know, I know many people have heard me talk about Mikaela a lot before. I work with Mikaela privately as well, so I am testament to her knowledge and her expertise, and I'm happy to talk about that a little bit more as we go along as well. So
thank you very much for having me on the chat today, Nadine. It's been great.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so kind of basically what Nadine's already said. I'm an exercise physiologist. I did 3 years in Cairns doing exercise science, and then unfortunately they don't do that exercise physiology in Cairns, so I moved to Townsville for 4 years and worked there full time, and I've been on the coast for about 2 years now working for LYPLYV Physio, and in all honesty it's probably been the best move I've ever done, because up in Far North Queensland we don't get the beaches that we get down here, so it's very nice.
Absolutely. And we were joking before about we look like we're in the same building with our beautiful pictures of the beach. I'm sort of like, yeah, can you tell we're on the Gold Coast?
It's very nice, isn't it?
Yeah. If I was there in the studio with you, I'd be working really hard on all of those machines.
Oh, of course,
yeah,
100%.
you know I would.
Well, in saying that, like an exercise physiologist, obviously we specialise in exercise and lifestyle management services for prevention and management of chronic diseases, injuries, persisting pain, depression, weight management and disabilities. So it's kind of like a holistic approach of everything coming together. We don't just work on one area of things. We look at everything that's going on in somebody's lifestyle and the behaviour changes that we can make to obviously promote a healthy lifestyle living. And being an exercise physiologist, it is an allied health profession. So we are eligible for the Medicare. So if it's through an EPC, your bulk billed, the DVA, so X Defence, people with white cards and gold cards, obviously the state work covers and everything like that. So if there's an injury that does happen at work, work cover does claim for it. So we do see a lot of the work cover injuries as well. And then AEPs are also recognised as private health insurers as well. So you don't pay
there's no excuse not to do something about it.
Exactly. So there's always a reason, not always a reason, but there's always a way of going about it so that there is some way of helping you if you do need something like that.
Absolutely.
One thing I do go into, especially when I'm seeing a client one-on-one as well, is there's always two definitions of exercise or physical activities, I should say. The first one is incidental exercise, and a lot of people probably don't do as much as that as what we would like compared to a structured exercise program. So incidental is generally less than 10 minutes, and it's your day-to-day activities that you are doing. Is combined with, say that you are sitting at the desk all day, like yourself, Nadine, and then you get up and you go make yourself a cuppa, or you've got to go do the groceries for that day, or maybe that when you are going to the grocery store, you're parking a little bit further away, so you've got to walk that further distance, or taking the stairs instead of the elevator. It's things like that that are incidental, that make up the time throughout the day, that help us kind of combine everything together to have that structured exercise program. And obviously in recent years, the health benefits of it being breaking up is it's still included as sedentary time, not so much as moderate or vigorous exercise, but sedentary, which is, if we think about it, it's kind of better than nothing.
I was going to
sitting
say,
at a desk all day.
Yeah, but still something. Yeah,
100%. Whereas structured exercise, and this is what I'm obviously a big advocate for, and if we can do it, especially during the isolation time that we're going through at the moment, we've got a lot more time on our hands. So really there is no excuse why we can't be doing it, unless you are like Nadine and working from home constantly. And this is what I batter into her a little bit more, if she can have a little bit more incidental exercise into her daily routine. But structured exercise is planned activity, and it goes for greater than 10 minutes, and it's purposeful and meaningful, so that it has the purpose of improving your health and your fitness, so your cardiovascular, your strength, and obviously your mental well-being as well. I'll use myself as an example here. When I obviously not in isolation and having the restrictions of not being able to go to the gym, I find that it is a lot harder to have that motivation to get up and go and do something. So obviously we're working from home a little bit more. Even if I don't feel like doing a 30 to 45 minute program, because it's something that I have to come up with, and obviously I don't have the issue with that because I've got the knowledge behind it. But for a lot of people that don't, they're not too sure of like, oh, well, what do I do? How do I start this? How do I come up with a combination of exercises to actually do? If we think, I'll go into a lot more depth about that and down the track, but if we can just include, like if it's walking, if we walk to the grocery store, if you're just picking up a couple of things for dinner, going for a walk, obviously someone within your household, and as the restrictions lift now, it's going to be a little bit easier for us, going for a bike ride. And I think at the moment in time, structured exercise is a lot more difficult for people, because we don't have the facilities to go to, we don't have that gym, we don't have that structured program of doing it. So that's a massive thing. And obviously if there is any other questions that people want to ask, I'm more than happy to answer them as well. But with the combination of incidental and structured physical activity, obviously they produce similar health benefits when performed in more adequate amounts of time. So if we can aim for probably 4 to 5 days per week of physical exercise. I do go into the guidelines a little bit down my chat, but obviously the regular benefits of exercise is that we reduce the amount of fatal heart attacks by, I think it's like 50%. It improves your breathing with lung disease by 70%. So if you think, especially coming out of isolation, going from what you were doing and feeling fit and doing that to then going for 2 months without doing anything, and the biggest exertion that you've done is going for a walk, and you think that you're going back into your normal program, that's going to play a massive role on your breathing. Like you're going to become so short of breath. I know for a fact, like if I still go out for a run or I do go for a bike ride and I'm going up a little bit hill, I'm like, whew, okay, that got me. Like, I'm like, right, time.
Yeah. And if that happens to you, imagine what someone like me would be like. You know.
So I feel as if having that regular exercise, especially during this isolation time, it is important to keep up doing something so that we can maintain our fitness, so that it's not a big of a shock going back into our normal routine in a couple of weeks' time.
Sorry, can I just ask, Mikaela?
Yeah.
Roughly, and I don't know if there is any answer to this because I realise it would be individual, but I mean, if you were typically that person that was going to the gym and doing a lot of workouts, how quickly would you lose your fitness? Like, do you sort of maintain a little bit and it drops off slightly until there's a point, or like the minute you stop, is it sort of like, okay, now you have to start building back up gradually? Like, is there a little bit of a flow if you've been used to doing a lot of regular exercise, then all of a sudden you've cut back on that? How quickly could you then start coming back into it? Is there any...
Going from doing your normal routine to doing absolutely nothing, which I could probably say maybe 70% of the population have done during the isolation, to then going back up to what they've wanted to, what their past routine has been, they're going to see a massive difference. It will take probably 2 or 3 weeks to get back to their just because of like the memory that the body has. They will be able to get back to where they were, but it will take a couple of weeks for that to happen.
Yep.
But obviously there will be a massive drop, even like a week's difference of doing your normal routines or doing nothing, to then going back into something else. 100%. It also helps combat depression and the effects of medication. So mental health plays a massive role with exercise. And I'm a 100% believer on this because I do suffer from anxiety myself. And I know the days that I do get out, even if it's just riding down to the beach and going for a beach ride, or going for a run, or going for a walk, or doing a bit of a 20-minute program at home that I come up with myself, my mindset for that day is far greater than what it would be if I hadn't had exercised. So that's, I just believe that in myself, that it is a great thing to be able to do.
And it gives you energy. It sets you up for the day. Like if you're exercising in the morning, like I notice the difference if I've done that as well. Like, and I know you're probably laughing, going, when did she ever do that? You know, but when I have done that.
Those days that come around, yes.
Exactly. I was all good before we went overseas, and we did a lot of walking overseas while we were there, and then coming back, it's like, oh my gosh, you literally haven't stopped, you know, like if the work that I'm doing would, you know, would equate to, you know, the building that level of fitness. But there, I just know, myself, even if I'm tired and I think, okay, I am going to go out for a walk, you know, it's the benefit of having a dog that sits you, you know, looks at you with the puppy dog eyes. It's like, okay, you know, even like you can feel so tired, but it does just give you that lift.
It gives you that little boost. Yeah,
it does. And even though 100%. You feel too tired, it's like, oh, the last thing I want to do is go out for a walk, but it actually is probably one of the best things that you can do, because it does reinvigorate.
It increases your energy, and it obviously releases those endorphins that you need for the day to have that height, that productive feeling, and having, I don't know, and I feel as if I have a much more better glow about myself. And I don't have that cloud, that fog in my head, the days that I do exercise myself. And obviously it does reduce your stress levels as well, and the ability of becoming sick. So the big thing with obviously the coronavirus that is going about, if we are able to stay active as much as we can, obviously your chances of developing any type of sickness or virus is reduced compared to somebody that doesn't exercise and kind of has a lower immune system. And
it's one of the things we've been talking about. You know, I've been doing a lot of work with, from the psychological aspect, about like dealing with uncertainty and dealing with change. And, you know, one of the recommended things is to maintain that level of self-control and self-discipline. And, you know, and that's what I say to people, is that, yes, you might not be able to go out to the gym, but that's not an excuse to just sit at home and sit on the couch and not do anything. Like there's always something that you can do. It's modifying things at home. And I know, listen to me, like we joke about this for anyone listening. It is a joke, but, you know, I do absolutely support it 100%. You know, that there is something, and I know obviously the programs that we've worked together with, you know, and done those things, it's really doable. If someone like me, who I do not enjoy exercise, but if I can do it and make it work, it's not an excuse, you know, to use the isolation as, oh, well, I can't go to the gym, so I can just sit here and, you know, fill up on junk food and not do anything. You know, it's important. As you said, you lose that fitness pretty quickly. So you want to be able to still be doing something. And it's probably now more important than ever as well, with the mental health aspect of it.
100%. Yeah. So like I was saying before, with the guideline side of things, obviously it's a lot easier when we are back into our normal routines, and say that this coronavirus never happened and you were still living your life as what it was. We would want to be doing continuous activities. So the greater than 10 minutes. So it's walking, jogging. This is obviously the cardiovascular fitness, swimming, cycling, any type of sport that you can increase your heart rate, so that your breathing is becoming a little bit more exerted. And then we want to kind of promote that a little bit more as well, to obviously help with becoming short of breath, and a lot of other health conditions as well. So we want to try and aim for a moderate intensity, 30 minutes, 5 days a week. So that kind of relates to 150 minutes each week of just endurance activities, your aerobic activity. But it obviously can change from moderate to vigorous, depending on your cardiovascular fitness as well, and where you're at. But then the kind of the combination of both of what you're doing, obviously you don't have to do as much, but you do notice a massive difference as well. And then with strength, it's hard with that one as well, because people don't have the weights, they don't have the equipment to be able to keep up their strength. So then we're put back to using body weight things, and people don't feel as if they're exerting themselves as much. But no matter what we're doing, like I said, it's better than doing nothing, and you're maintaining what you've got. Obviously, you're going to decrease some way or another, because if you're lifting weights and doing some sort of weight program and doing a body weight program, you're going to notice a little bit of a difference, but that will come back quite quickly as well. So we want to be doing at least 2 days of strength work, if that is a combination of doing your aerobic activity and your strength activity. And that's what I like to do, is kind of combine them both together. Yeah. So that I'm doing more of a HIIT intensity, so a high intensity interval training. I feel like I've got to break a sweat to feel like I've done something. To do so, so I do that probably 3 or 4 days per week. And then on other days, or even including those days, I'll just go for a light walk, or I'll go for a run. So that I'm still incorporating my body weight strength exercises into my programs, that I'm not losing the strength that I do have, and that obviously I need to be able to do to my day-to-day activities as well. But let's be serious, 50% of us haven't really been doing much activity in the last 2 months or even longer, because of what has happened, and a lot of barriers do come up as well. One, if it is lack of motivation, because we are out of routine. I know for a fact that my sleeping routine at the moment has gone to complete whack. I'm sleeping a lot more, or I've got a lot more interrupted sleeps, and I'm having really vivid dreams.
That's interesting.
Yeah, Netflix. Netflix has to be a massive one.
Yes.
Because you'll be like, oh, I won't exercise in the morning, but I'll do it this afternoon. I'll just watch a couple of episodes of Netflix. And then the afternoon rolls around, and then you realize it's 7 o'clock at night. You're like, oh, well, there's no time to really do much anymore. And that's just people's go-to, because they don't really have much else to do. I mean, how many activities in gardening can you do in a household, really? Right. There is no gyms, and there is no equipment, so that we don't have the availability of the outdoor gyms even, or kind of having the pools open, or having some of the beaches open to go for walks, or we're very unsure of how we're supposed to go about the home-based workout. A lot of people don't know. And you were kind of a bit the same when I first met you, Nadine, is that you weren't too sure of how to design your own program at home. How to do it,
exactly. What was safe? How do you start? How much is, 5 repetitions on this? Or do you start out, using your cans of beetroot as your weights, or, like is your 2 kilo hand weights enough, or, the strength band? It's, just knowing the right thing to do. But I think a big thing, like for me, was how to do it properly. And I know as we went through, because I have a few issues with my knees, and, we were doing squats, which I hate squats, but I can really feel it working. So I do them. But, like that was one of the things I think that has been so good, working with someone, obviously, like you have the expertise, you have that deeper level knowledge than just, someone who may have done a short-term training course in it, that we can look at the knee issue and say, okay, and I still remember sort of modifying my posture to try and minimize what was happening with it, and being able to work around. And I felt safe doing that, because I knew you knew what you were talking about. You weren't just going, I haven't had this before, but why don't you just try this?
Just give this a go.
Just give it a go. Just, no experience, but just have a go.
Exactly.
But I think that is one of the benefits, because you get it, but you understand how it all works and pieces together, which is, again, a huge plus in my book.
Well, it is. And it's also quite beneficial for me working alongside physios as well, because obviously they're dealing with the acute injury side of things. So it's not like I'm seeing somebody that's just come from a completely different physio or a different outside view to being like, this is what's happened. I've got the first base information, so that I can lead from what the physios have had to then going straight into the program that I would develop for long-term management.
And even with the doctors as well, I know that that's where we met through, like my GP referred me to you. So it was like, great, I've got the trust in my GP, and then I know where you were all working together, and it's just sort of having that, but it becomes like a TRICARE sort of system. There's multiple people involved, which again is encouraging, and doesn't mean that, you know, it's because you've got these detrimental injuries or illnesses. It's just, okay, this is what needs to happen, and you know, you can work together to make it happen. So
yeah, exactly, 100%. I believe in probably the next couple of weeks, I would say probably the next month, gyms will start opening again. But until then, and I've kind of told this to you as well, Nadine, is that even if we don't do as much activity, the 30 minutes every day, if we can split it up and do, say, a 10-minute stretch in the morning, a few exercises of 10 minutes at lunchtime, and then finish off with something at 10 minutes in the afternoon, that's 30 minutes there accumulated for the day. Even if it is, you just get up from your desk, you walk around, you do a few things. But I find as soon as I start, or I don't have the motivation to do it, as soon as I start doing it, I'm like, I tell myself, I do 10 minutes, I see how I'm feeling, and then I can do something later. I can go for a walk or a bike ride this afternoon or something. Yep. But by the time I get to that 10 minutes, I'm already halfway through my program. I feel as if like, yeah, you may as well finish it. I'm feeling, I've got the energy now. I've got the motivation, and I'm actually enjoying it. I'm going to continue doing it. So I feel as if, even if you say that you're going to do 10, 10 and 10, or like 15 and 15 in the afternoon, I feel as if that will come to one, so that you'd rather just get it over and done with when you've started doing it, because you've beaten that motivation. Yeah. And you've got that motivation, you've got that energy, you've got that momentum to continue going then, which is the biggest thing. Because,
does that, sorry, I was going to say, does that count, like if you are breaking it up, does that count towards like your cardiovascular side? I know it's still incidental, but does it count towards your 150 minutes a week exercise or not?
It does, obviously, and I will always say something is better than nothing. So if we are only doing 10 minutes of cardiovascular fitness, we probably won't see much of an improvement with that. But a lot of people with, say, like COPD or asthma or respiratory condition, a lot of the time they can't do something greater than 10 minutes. So they will get to the 10 minutes mark and they feel absolutely fatigued. They can't do much more than that. So something like that is good for them, for somebody like that. So obviously each program that I design is very specific and tailored to the person that I'm dealing with in their health conditions and injuries, which is also good because everything's always different and you're always learning as well. Physically,
which is why I like it. Which is why I like it, because it's not a one size fits all. It's very personalised to what
it has to be with what you can do and the movement that you've got and what you're dealing with at that time, and your motivation levels. I feel as if the biggest one at the moment in time. Physical inactivity is probably the most global public health problem in the 21st century. So a lot of, and especially Australia, we're one of the highest related death causes is inactivity in Australia, behind smoking. So if you think about that, a lot of people do smoke, and then the most thing after that is inactivity. So every second person you think about that is not being active, that's because then they're being inactive, they're developing all these diseases, and they're kind of not the best, really.
And a lot of it is free. It doesn't cost anything to do. You don't have to go and join a gym to get the best possible workout.
Exactly.
It's stuff that you can modify and do easily. I'm convincing myself here. I'm doing really well. I'm just I'm going to go and exercise after this.
You'll get up.
I need to talk to you every day, Mikaela, don't I?
You really do.
I really do. It's because I know about the STICK.
That's actually in this room, hidden. Actually.
Oh my God, hidden away for the unsuspecting victims of the stick.
People would never know that I'm actually brutal.
No, they wouldn't. And it hurt like anything, but it was really effective. And it wasn't, just to clarify, being bashed with a stick. It was actually used to loosen up the muscles. I think that was the way you put it, wasn't it?
It's a rehab modality. That's what I like to use. My rehab trainer that I use.
Exactly.
Oh, that's too good. I actually was listening to a podcast the other day, and it brought up something quite funny. and it said something, do you promote a healthy lifestyle, or do you promote a diseased, like a chronic disease stated lifestyle? Like, where would you put yourself in that kind of category? Are you doing what you can to obviously prolong your life and help with your health conditions, or are you living a lifestyle that you're kind of contributing to your health factors? So you're not having a healthy diet, you're not regularly exercising, you don't have a good mental state, because obviously that contributes to everything that's going on.
Absolutely. So you've got to be in the right frame of mind.
Exactly. Are you putting yourself in this little bubble where you're kind of reducing your risk of having a healthy lifestyle, and then things are just getting worse and worse, and then you get that snowball effect? Is that where you are in this category? Or can you change something and change a behavior within your lifestyle? If it is you start walking, or as it is that you quit smoking, or you kind of reduce the amount that you're smoking. I feel as if it's kind of perfect timing, that if we can set smarter goals, then we can start changing that lifestyle that we're living. We can start changing those behavior changes that we're going through as well. So the way that I was brought up throughout uni, I know a lot of people probably have heard it, is the SMARTY effect. So is the goal specific to you and where you want to be short-term and long-term? Is the goal measurable? How can you measure it? How can you notice a bit of a difference where you were to where you are at now? Is it achievable for you? It's obviously got to be achievable, because you want to be able to achieve that goal for one, but you wouldn't make it achievable if you don't think in your right mind that you would be able to get there in the first place. Is it realistic? I'm not going to say that I'm going to be running a marathon in 4 weeks' time with no training behind me, no marathon distance running training behind me, nothing like that. So that is a really unrealistic goal for myself. And we set a time frame to it. Most of the time, for a lot of people, I set time frames like weekly. So I like to set short-term goals every week. And if we can achieve those weekly, we slowly tick off what we want to achieve long-term as well. Yeah. And then at the end of it, we evaluate, where did we go wrong? Where can we correct things? Where did we go right in this? Where can we improve? And where do we see progressions? So it's little things like that I find, even with the isolation going on, goal setting is a massive thing. At every beginning of every week, I write in my diary, like the little goals that I want to be able to do. And then when I have done them, I tick them off.
It's a sense of accomplishment, and we need that. 100%. That's sort of one of the keys for our well-being as well. That sense of achievement and accomplishment.
And you kind of feel accountable that you're writing it down, you're knowing what you've got to do, because then you flick back through your diary or the list that you've made or wherever you've written down your goals, and you think to yourself, I didn't do that, I'll do that next week. And then it kind of just becomes something that's written in your diary for this time frame it's just never getting done. Are the goals we're setting, are they physically or are they mental health goals that we are setting? So I set both for myself to see, because obviously I know the physical goals that I'm setting are going to help with my mental health goals as well. So they kind of do go hand in hand. Yeah. And then, like I said, short-term and long-term goals as well. The long-term goal has to stay by that SMARTY effect also, because obviously where we're achieving it throughout the short-term goals is that time frame where we evaluate that long-term goal. So that's a massive thing.
Definitely.
Barriers.
I never have any of those. I don't think when we first met, I don't think I came up with any barriers. Is that why the stick got involved? No. Because I don't think, no.
I'm going to scare them out of you.
I think you did.
Yeah.
But I think in all seriousness, that is important. And I know, for a lot of our vet professionals that You know, depending, I know there's some particularly like in New Zealand and I believe in Tasmania where they have had a lot of restrictions placed on them with the work that they can do. So a lot of them haven't been able to work. But then other clinics have just been so ridiculously busy, particularly with like the split teams. So some of them are working longer hours but fewer days. And so there's a lot of exhaustion going on. And because they never know what to expect in any given day, it's sort of like I sort of say, it's analogous to working in an emergency department. You don't know what's going to come through the door and when. Like you might have, you know, they've got their scheduled, you know, consultations, their scheduled surgeries, but you never know what emergency is going to be presented to you or what's going to happen in one of those consultations that could then put their day behind. So it's not,
you've always got to be ready. You've got to be
exactly. And I think it's probably the norm more so than the exception, like not having lunch breaks, you know, not having that sort of time to exercise. And I guess, you know, if that, you know, done a 10 or 12 hour shift and then getting home, it's like the last thing I feel like doing is doing some exercise or doing something physical. But I think that's part of it. Okay, how can you do it? And I sort of say this, and again, clearly I'm not an expert on it, but using my experience with that, well, you know, if you've just taken bloods on an animal and you're waiting for the results, you know, by the machine, do some wall push-ups. So we were just joking about I did my wall push-ups before I went into another meeting. I'm like, I hate wall push-ups, but I'm going to do them, you know, and I did sort of 10. I'm like, okay, this will be good. But it's just that incidental stuff that for me, it's like that was better than nothing, or could, you know, like even walking on the spot or like those sorts of things that, you know, could still be done even within the day if they haven't got time to go home and exercise. Or
it contributes to it. 100%.
Yeah. But sorry, I interrupted you because you were talking about barriers. And
that's okay.
I just thought of the stick as soon as I thought of barriers.
That is a barrier for you. I'll go. So I asked a few of the physios that I worked with this morning, what's their biggest barriers during isolation? And Nick, my boss, he said that obviously it's the social interaction side of it. A lot of people go for a walk so that they can catch up with their friends, and obviously they're doing two things at once. And we obviously haven't been able to do that at this point. And keeping the 1.5 rule, it's quite hard to be socializing with a group of friends, going for a walk and catching up with coffee or something like that. And then it's also the accessibility to the facilities, even if it is the pools, if it is walking down to the beach. Obviously some of the beaches were closed. The outdoor gyms,
because a lot of the parks, the council parks have those, don't they?
They've all been closed, and a lot of people do just tend to exercise outdoors. But don't get me wrong, I live in Miami myself, and going down to the Miami Esplanade over the weekend or even during the week, I feel as if it's like 10 times more packed compared to what it usually is, not during isolation. So it's good to see people out and about, but then it's also like, are they only walking because they don't know what else to do? Or are
they bored? They just want to get out of home? Or is it a conscious time?
And then obviously there's the barriers of motivation, the self-efficacy, your movement limitations. So how is your posture? How is your strength, your lifting ability, your functional movement? Do you find that because you haven't started, you may as well not start because you've done it before and you're not going to see a difference or anything like that?
One of those,
or if it is your health status, is it you believe that there's a different approach of just using medication for your health conditions, if it's high cholesterol, high blood pressure, back pain, things like that? Or is it in your injury that is your biggest barrier itself? It's limiting you to what you're able to do. You're not sure because you're scared. You've got that fear of pain or re-injuring yourself. That's probably the biggest one as well. What else? I've got weather.
Okay. Yes.
Weather is a big barrier for that one. A lot of people lose motivation with the colder weather. I know, being from far north Queensland, I'm used to the humidity and the dry weather. So when it comes a little bit colder, I'm like, oh, this is chilly. I do lose motivation. It's a lot harder for me to get up in the morning and get moving because I'd rather be snuggled up in bed
where it's warm,
and sleep a little bit
rainy
longer.
And
And then it's some people exercise outdoors, or they'll do it in their garden, so that's where they do it, so that when it is raining, that they don't have the area inside to be able to do it, or they don't have the freedom because they're living in an apartment or a house that has like kids and everything like that. And then, but financial costs at the moment as well, obviously being the gym's closed, isn't our biggest barrier. So
yeah, and I think that's so true. Weather, I find I'm probably worse in summer because I'm probably the opposite to you. I don't like the heat. And so that was one of the things I prefer if I'm doing my exercise. Like, as you know, I do my walk at home DVDs. I've got the apps and everything. They're all, you know, and they do HIIT training on everything and the resistance and all of that. But I would find if I did it first thing in the morning, then I would feel warm and sweaty all day. Like I was so like overheated, whereas then I started to modify it. I think, you know, particularly after I came and saw you, and would do something a little bit different. So it's like, okay, you know, I'd go and take the dog for a walk in the afternoon, you know, like it might be 6 o'clock, getting a little bit later when the sun's going down, but, you know, come home, have the aircon on, and then do some of my resistance while it was warm. So I'd find that I'd start like cooling down over dinner, and as the evening was getting a little bit cooler. So I sort of definitely found that modification, that was something that I did. But I sort of find it nicer because, I mean, I've got a gorgeous outdoor area, and I've got a really nice pergola and everything, apart from when the dogs, you know, if I'm trying to do my squats, you know, or my knee lifts and I'm doing my exercises, she goes, great. And she tries to sit in between, you know, and I'm trying to, so a few times it's like, okay, if you don't move, then, you know, my leg's still moving. So she moves pretty quickly, but it's actually nice. I mean, yes, it's brisk, but I mean, you soon warm up. So I sort of find it like earlier in the morning is actually a really nice time to do like, I find for those resistance type exercises, again, for me, I mean, I just put Spotify on as well, and I just think, okay, it's a distraction for somebody like me who doesn't thrive on exercise, but I just find that music to be quite motivating, and just setting the environment as well. And
that's what it is. I completely agree with that. I find it really hard to exercise without music, because even if I'm running, I've got to run to the beat of what I'm listening to. And then I also kind of outpace myself. And
then you're like,
oh. But I just feel as if it gets you. There's so many songs that I've been listening to lately that are kind of just like pump up songs. You know,
really,
I feel like moving. I feel like doing something.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, that's good.
It's finding your rhythm, isn't it? Like, I mean, I've got Guns N' Roses. People would probably laugh at you. I listen to that, but you know, Sweet Child of Mine, that is, to me, that's a get up and go song. It's like, you can have it so loud and cranked. It's like, okay, you know, and then, you know, but it's sort of like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing my cool down, but this is like really pumping. I'm like,
I'm going to make this my cool down.
Yeah, exactly. My cool down can go for half an hour, can't it?
That is so good.
But and I think the point there, though, isn't it? It's about finding what's going to motivate you. You know, if you find it motivating to have the music there that does, you know, it gets you in that mood that you do want to move, you know, even if you're dancing around the house while you've got the music on, you know, like just silly things like that might not actually be so silly, but apart from the way you dance or whatever, but you know, as long as you're moving, right?
People aren't watching, it's fine.
Exactly. The dog's not going to tell anyone. The cats aren't going to tell anyone.
Exactly. And in saying that, I do just want to have like a little bit of a rest. So if you are listening to this, I want you to stand up from your chair.
Mm-hmm. Do I have to do it?
No, you don't have to do it if you want to. But we have been sitting probably for about 35 minutes now. Yes. So I just want to take a nice little second to stretch. So arms come up above head and raise. Take a deep breath in and out. And as you exhale out, I want you to press up a little bit more so that we're stretching in through the back and through the shoulders.
I know.
And then you're going to bring them in front. I'm just going to, and then we're going to pull forward. So we're stretching in through the shoulder blades. You can't really. Sure you can see that.
Have you got your hands that way or
so like
that
this
way? Intertwined.
And pulling forward.
Because that's nice across your like collarbone and like your shoulder blade thingies. You know, things on your back, whatever they're called. Your wings. You know
those things that move. You're going to take the arms to the back, exact same hand position as what we were before, and you're going to roll your shoulders back and open up your chest.
I do that a lot. I usually clunk when I do that.
Yeah, I find, well,
happening
especially a lot of people that are working at home at the moment and
Yeah.
at the desk and not at their normal kind of setup, like we were discussing before. Their shoulders are rolling forward, the necks are coming forward. We're getting a lot more neck pain and shoulder pain and relaxing there.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to do quick neck stretches. So left ear to left shoulder, shoulders coming back.
I was going the opposite to you because obviously on the thing I'm like, is this my left side?
We're doing the right thing.
We're on the opposite. I love a nice neck stretch. I do say. I do a nice neck stretch every morning, especially when you get up.
Onto the other side.
It's nice.
It is, isn't it?
Yep. And hopefully everyone's doing this as well and not just us, because it feels really good.
I hope so.
Oh, it does.
This is nice. I love this neck stretch.
Yeah, when we are on there, or even like
just on shoulder rolls.
Even for like our vets and the nurses that are, like if they're in surgery or consultation, like leaning over a lot, I think some of those getting that posture and just releasing it, because we carry the tension in our necks as well, like when we're stressed and we're anxious. One of the things that, we sort of learned from a psychological perspective, if you are feeling tense, like just drop your shoulders automatically can make you feel like you're releasing some tension.
Yeah, it is a lot easier said than done though for people that are quite
that you are like this. You don't realise when you're driving and you're like this, you're like, oh my gosh, why am I driving like that? It's just, like we're on our keyboards all day, or, we've got our mouse, or again, those in clinical practice, that are like leaning over. So they've got the hunched over.
Well, in saying that, actually, I obviously work through the My Health around the Gold Coast as well. And so I've sent all the doctors that I work with, because obviously they're doing a lot more for us as well, not that they don't do every day, but a few upper body stretches and just like a 5-minute little routine that they can do at their desks, so that when they've got like a little bit of break throughout the day, they're stretching through their chest and their necks and through their backs, just so they're feeling a little bit more relieved. And it's that 5-minute time they've got to themselves to kind of reevaluate, kind of reprocess everything in their head and start fresh and go again.
And do it. It's just enough to sort of reset you sometimes, isn't it? And even just doing some deep breathing. This is the psychologist in me coming in, doing some deep breathing while you're doing that, just to help get the anxiety levels and the stress levels down as well.
Yeah.
Or as I often say to people, like, that's how I'm too busy, I don't have time to do that. It's like, well, go into the bathroom and just close the door, and the toilet. You don't physically have to go to the bathroom, but just close the door and deep breathe and do a few stretches and that, like that was what I've actually implemented that in jobs where I've worked, that I've been so overwhelmed or so busy. It's like, I just use that, right, I'm just going to the toilet, and I will go in there, like, even if I close my eyes for a few minutes and just do a few of those stretches, it just helps to reset you and just keep everything at that nice level.
Yeah. Like, especially if we're working from home as well, they're perfect.
Definitely.
I'm going to go on and talk about a little bit of work-related injuries. Obviously, with the workers that are taking in a lot more hours because of people that have been, say, let off or been made redundant.
Or the split shifts, which is
or the split shifts, there's an increase in workload as well. So obviously there's that risk of getting more injury, and there's more going on within that shift at work. And I completely understand is that it does become a little bit overwhelming. You're like, I don't have the time. I can't do it. I'm too exhausted when I come home from work, and that's completely understandable. So it's more so taking in some of the ideas that we had earlier in the discussion of doing 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, or you do your 10 sets of your wall push-ups where you can, just to kind of reset. The work-related musculoskeletal injuries that we do get are more so from manual handling, the heavy lifting, the carrying, the pushing, the constant bend forward for the lower back as well. And obviously we don't want to restrict ourselves or have an injury because of we still need to continue to work. Especially if we've got the job and we haven't been made redundant, we want to be able to keep that job. So we need to be safe in the work that we are doing. So prevention is vital, and the best way that we can prevent is through exercise prescription. That's me. We want to be able to manage and rehab the injured areas and kind of maintain where you're at so that you're able to continue working, or improve those areas so that you've got better range, you've got better strength, you're reducing your pain, or you've got no pain at all. not only to kind of reduce the injury but more so reduce the reoccurrence of an injury happening. A lot of people that come in with back pain, obviously it's something that they've had for a period of time, and it's something of like a simple bend forward that's just triggered it, and then they're on like an anti-inflammatory for weeks, and they're on painkillers after that, and they're just not doing anything because they don't have the time to rehabilitate it. So it's tasks that we're completing at work that I want you to be a little bit more mindful of how we're doing it. Are we squatting down correctly to pick up a box or an animal, or are we carrying the animal correctly? So obviously the closer the thing is to our body, the easier it is to carry. The further away it is from our body, there's a lot more leverage of coming down and putting more strain towards the body. So we just need to be careful of that as well, and that we're using our lower body to lift rather than our lower back and upper body to lift. So core's a massive role as well. I remember at the conference, one of the girls ended up emailing me after, and she said, I've been like, after I've washed the baby and everything, I'll come in and I'll do a 30-second plank, and I'll do that every day, and it's been the best.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, this is great. This is like the simple things that you're able to do.
Exactly. But it's making
it should make the difference.
Realistic. It's making it realistic.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, like as you said, like for the vet professionals, you know, there might be either reaching down, you know, to pick up a 30 or 40 or even bigger, you know, kilo dog to put onto the consult table, or, you know, if it's going in for surgery or, you know, a procedure, or it might even be reaching down to pick up the cat carrier off the ground. And it's so easy to do
something so simple.
Yep. Exactly. But you know, if you're doing that, how many times a day and doing it incorrectly,
exactly.
No wonder we have our back injuries. And
it is that repetitive application of force, or the repetitive awkward posture that we're constantly in, and like every single person puts themselves in an awkward position one way or another throughout the day. The repetitive movement that we're doing, or say like a sustained movement that we're holding to hold down an animal because it is becoming aggressive, or that they just need caring, or even like an exposure to like a vibration of something that can just trigger a lower back or an injury to happen. Obviously these things are putting the body under pressure, so that we just need to be a little bit more mindful of what we're doing, how we're carrying ourselves throughout the day. So individuals with chronic health issues or injuries, basically everybody should have an activity plan developed to ensure that the program is working, or that you are seeing benefits and results from the exercise program that you're completing. Whether it is, again, setting your SMARTY goals so that we're seeing a little bit of a difference. You're noticing how your breathing is, you're not becoming short of breath going up a set of stairs, that you're moving a little bit more freer when you're at work, or that when you are picking up things at work and you are doing manual handling, it's not as difficult as what you previously thought it was. And that we're kind of reducing the risk of chronic conditions. So if it is type 2 diabetes, if it is depression and your mental health, if it's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like that obviously play a massive role on long-term effects as well. So if we can start introducing more of an exercise program now and dealing with the chronic health conditions and disabilities and injuries, obviously we're just reducing the risk massively to what kind of lies in the future.
Yes, absolutely. And can I just ask you, because I know when I've spoken to particularly some of the nurses that will say that their ankles, you know, from like they notice obviously lower back, particularly if they're in the surgery or in consult, so you're leaning over all day, but also from an ankle perspective. And I'm wondering, is it like because they're on the feet all day, or is it the footwear maybe isn't supportive enough, or is that something to do with the kind of postural sort of stuff? Like, is there anything that people can do to strengthen that or modify that in such a way that it's not going to have such an impact?
So coming from ankles, whether or not they've had like a previous ankle injury could obviously increase their pain that they've got going on. Their footwear will play a massive role as well. I know I wear runners majority of the time to work, and I know when my feet start to ache and they get really uncomfortable, I need to change my shoes. So if that's the case, probably look into going to a podiatrist to get orthotics to see what's actually going on with the foot. But then it will be your posture as well, because obviously the body is a linking chain, and the feet being flat-footed, you're probably more prone to more injuries happening compared to someone with a mid arch and a higher arch. So then it is the posture that's going on that myself or a physio that would look at how we can change that and reduce the pain that you're getting from the prolonged standing and movement that you're doing on a day-to-day.
So that is something that you would be able to sort of help look at and then find out what's going on and what they could do and make those suggestions.
And how like the person's moving, like walking, how their gait pattern's happening, how they're actually lifting objects at work, or when that pain is actually triggered is something that we do look at as well. So the biomechanics of things plays a massive role of how the body moves. Obviously in the next couple of weeks we're going to be returning to a little bit more of a normal routine, hopefully, and that's one thing that we also need to take into consideration. So what I said previously is that we used to have this routine of going to the gym or doing our normal workouts or what we were doing, compared to going to absolutely nothing for 8 weeks to then going back into something that we're feeling comfortable doing, and then going, no doubt people will go straight back into the program that they were completing. So we just got to be careful of the injury that's going to come from that as well. So the listeners that are going back into a gym setting, just be aware of taking it nice and easy and light, and then progressing back into the routine that you were doing. And maybe you are incorporating more of a home-based program as well, now that it's being a little bit more comfortable and it's kind of taking you out of that comfort zone to complete. We shouldn't be doing the same intensity. So reduce it, listen to your body. If it is just reducing the sets and reps, reducing the weight that we're doing, or reducing kind of the intensity that we're completing it at, just listen and then go from there and progress yourself as necessary. We want to be able to prevent any injuries happening. If that is the case, obviously I work with physios and you'll be able to see myself as well. But then just be careful of what we're doing movement wise, and then take it nice and slow. Definitely. And
do you think, would that be similar to those that, like, obviously with a lot of the shift changes, so those who are working longer shifts, I mean, obviously if they're having extra days off because they're working longer hours but shorter day, so okay, well, there's extra time there to go and fit some of this exercise in. But is that very similar, I guess, as far as that intensity? Like they've pushed themselves perhaps further than you normally would. Maybe they work an 8 to 10 hour day, now they might be doing 10 to 12 or 14 hour days. And so then trying to go back on into a full-on gym program is going to be the same thing, or would they have built up that little bit of extra resistance because they've already sort of done that over a period of time with working longer shifts and building that up?
It will be different. Obviously, they're increasing their tolerance to be able to do things and work longer. But going back into they're increasing their hours, but still wanting to do a gym program following what they've done, they still need to take it nice and easy and just listen to the body. It's a different type of activity. It's a different type of movement that we are completing, and then including more weight and load to what we're doing compared to what they're doing at work. Obviously it's a completely, like, we do a foundation of exercises that are going to help with a workplace situation, but they are different movements. So that we do have the functional movements that we do complete, but it's definitely won't be the same. So if they are going from a 12 to 14 hour shift, it's a tolerance that will be increased, but it will be a different program.
A different, that makes sense. I just thought, because I mean, there's some of the questions that the people watching might, that sort of like, oh well, I used to do 5 days, but X amount of hours over 5 days. Now I'm doing all of those hours, but across 3 days. So how does that affect me? So I'm on my feet a lot more, and I feel like I'm expending more energy. But is that having any flow-on effect, and how would that affect them getting back in? So
it would be more so just
the tolerance.
Just listening to your body and being able to do what, obviously there's that tolerance again, but the days off, also just do what you can. Absolutely. That's all I've got at the moment. I will be, obviously I'm still completing one-on-one Pilates sessions, so if anybody out there is wanting to have a Pilates session with myself, I am doing online and in studio. And I'm also obviously seeing people as exercise physiologists appointments as well. I am offering to you guys 20% off initial appointments for our physios
Awesome.
and myself. So that does include the Pilates appointments as well. So
thank you. I love
yeah,
Pilates. It's so nice. Feels so good. You don't realize those small little movements, what a difference they actually make.
it's like
They're
a love-hate
amazing.
relationship, really.
Yeah, exactly. Well, especially some of the machines, that you can do the Pilates on. I mean, I've done those before. I'm like, wow, because you can you get your body into different positions that you might not be able to do as easily, but they can just feel so effective. I know a lot of people, particularly a lot of our vet professionals, love the yoga side of things. I once had a chiropractor tell me that I shouldn't do yoga because of, got the curvature of the spine, which I think most people do, but mine's quite curved. So he said to me it probably wouldn't be a good idea for you, but he said Pilates, absolutely. So again, and I do notice that with certain exercises as well. I'm like, yeah, that's no good for the back, so again, it's finding, as you said, it's finding what's going to work and be suitable. But that's why it's people like you are around to be able to help and guide everyone. So
Exactly.
It's been great. I probably get just as much out of this than anyone else. It's like, oh, this has been like a little session for me to do all of this learning. I mean, I know we share a lot, but it's nice to actually listen and process the information while also applying that to our vet professionals and anyone else who might be listening as well. But just trying to make it realistic. And I think, as I said, like I work with you myself. We've worked together for some time. Last year, I think when we first started working together, sometime that was maybe mid last year. I think and like you've personalised a program for me, but made it realistic. In as much as I remember, well, would you do this? And I say, no way would I do that. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to give you that exercise because it's pointless. You're not going to do it, And then there's some like the squats and the wall push-ups that aren't my favorite things, but I also acknowledge that, I have to push myself as well. So there are things there. My calf raises, love my calf raises. The thing, I think you even asked me, so what are some of these? What are the ones you want to keep? Calf raises? I'll do those. I'll do those. I love calf raise. I don't know why, I just love them. So they're always, I think, in every workout as a little bonus. But it's making it realistic. And I think that's one of the things that I know that you're working with individual bodies as well and tailoring it. It's not just this philosophy of, okay, well, we need to just do this and let's just get you running up and down there 10 times and then doing this. It's tailored, it's personalized, it's individualized. And I think that's what makes it so successful. But you have like that solid understanding of, the physiology of what's going on and the science behind it as well. So, effectively your work is evidence-based. It's scientific. And I know that a lot of our vet professionals, like myself, love a bit of evidence-based stuff, and that's why, it does sit with me personally, because I know that it works. It's effective and it's not unrealistic. The goals and the exercises that you've set for me are not unrealistic, because as we know, I wouldn't do them if they were. But simple things, like, obviously we are a lot more sedentary at the moment, well, some of us as well, but it's, little things like walking around, or, you're fit, but we were just having a conversation offline about that, and it tells you, oh, you've got another, 25 steps to go for this hour. So it's like, well, where can I go? And it's just all those sort of little things all add up. Or going around. I mean, I walked around up and down the side of the house and did a few laps around the garden one afternoon just to sort of get that activity, but to break up my day from being on the computer and in meetings, like literally all day, because my back starts to ache after a while. And it's like, I just need to just clear my head and get the fresh air. The dog thought it was great. She was walking around going, why are we walking around in circles? But she's like, I don't care, you're out here with me, but it's just walking up and down. I thought if the neighbours could see me doing laps, I mean, I don't think they'd care anyway, but, it was sort of like, too bad, what anyone thinks. So I'm getting out there and I'm moving, and that was really important.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. And even the stretches. Like some of those stretches as well, like the back, the ball, don't know the official name for it, the spiky ball.
The muscle release ball, the trigger point.
Oh, I know one day I was nearly getting a little bit of sciatic pain, and I did that because obviously, we've been through all the stretches and everything. And I lay down and I had that, on my lower back, and it released it. instantly, or some days I'll get it and, you know, like roll it up and down against the wall. But there's things like that you can do. You can put the ball in your bag and take it with you to work and go and grab it out of your bag, you know, and just do that, just to, you know, release a little bit of that tension, or do some of those stretches and just, again, keep mobile. So I think it's just really, it's finding, something personalized, and that's why we need more people like you to do what you're doing. But you know, I mean, obviously you've been doing, you know, a bit of work with me professionally as well, so you're getting an understanding about what's going on in the vet industry, and, you know, that it's not your one size fits all stuff, and that's where I think it is really helpful. And hopefully, you know, for those watching, that they know that even though obviously face-to-face sessions, and obviously as the isolation restrictions reduce, that's going to be more and more practical, but you can have an online session as well. So they don't have to be on the Gold Coast. You know, you can see your GP to see whether or not you qualify for an enhanced primary care plan, or EPC. Again, not everyone does, because there is fairly strict criteria to meet it. But, you know, if you have your private health, or I don't think it's expensive just paying for a session anyway, you know, so it's
not at
so
all.
many options. It's not like you're paying thousands of dollars or anything like that.
But it's also that you can't really put a price to your health. Like, it's something that's always going to be there. So
exactly. And we do have to make that time. And I know, you know, I need to take my own advice as much as I sort of joke around it, you know, but it's so important, you know, we're looking after not just our physical health, we're looking after our psychological health, to get, you know, this machine of ours working in the most appropriate way. So so thank you so much for joining us, and
no worries at all.
giving up your time. And for those of you watching, if you do want to get in touch with Mikaela, and I would absolutely highly recommend it, that I will share the details when I put the podcast link up. The Surf Life Physio, there is a link on the Love Your Pet, Love Your Vet website. So if you scroll all the way down, you see like all of our members and our supporters. There is a link there to Surf Life Physio, where you'll be able to get in touch with Mikaela, or you can get in touch with us through Love Your Pet, and we're more than happy to put you in touch with Mikaela to look at how you could work together and hopefully get your own personalized plan, you know, that's going to be achievable and realistic, and all those SMART goals, to be able to make this work for you, you know, to really keep your health on track. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you again, Mikaela, for joining us, and really just sharing that, you know, that really informative information, but practical ways of being able to help yourself, but just keep that movement happening and keep your health in track. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next webinar very soon. Thanks again, everybody. Bye for now.